Hello everyone, welcome to Options with Doug, streaming live on Monday, Wednesday, and now Friday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time of Bookmap Discord and the Bookmap YouTube channel. Before I get started, I need to go through the disclosures. General disclosure, all Bookmap limited materials, information, and presentations are for educational purposes only and should not be considered specific investment advice nor recommendations. Risk disclosure, trading futures, equities, and options involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Here's my contact information. The best way to get in touch with me is through Discord. My name on Discord is Doug P. Also in Bookmap Discord, there's an Options-Doug chat channel. You can post questions, comments, and content related to the topics of my presentation and the topics of the channel that I'll go through in just a moment. I'm also on X. My name there is @DougPless. I do have an announcement. This is about the Bookmap February Blue Jacket competition. What you need to do is take a trade in Bookmap using Bookmap and the trade control panel. It can be either live, sim, or replay. Mark it up and then post it on social media with the hashtag #FreeBlueJacket for the chance to win a blue jacket as well as 3 months of Global Plus and your choice of futures or stocks data. So that's a blue jacket competition. You can scan the QR code for more information. Here are the key tenets to my approach to trading. I believe that options trades and market maker hedging activity are key drivers of price in many stocks and futures. That certainly applies to large cap tech stocks as well as the equity index futures like the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq 100. And for the S&P 500, SPX is the underlying index. SPY is the ETF version of the index, and the S futures contract is a derivative of SPX. And when traders buy and sell puts and calls in SPX and SPY, market makers take the opposite side of the trades and hedge their delta exposure with the S futures. And for the Nasdaq 100, NDX is the underlying index. QQQ is the much more liquid ETF version of that index, and the NQ futures contract is a derivative of NDX. And just like the S&P 500, when traders buy and sell puts and calls in NDX and QQQ, market makers take the opposite side of the trades and they hedge their delta exposure with NQ futures. The focus of my presentation today and the focus of the Options-Doug chat channel is options order flow, the impact of options markets on stocks and futures, and the influence of market maker hedging flow on price action. I have a two-step process for trading. The first is planning, and I use positional analysis. I look at how traders and market makers are positioned at the options market and how those positions change from day to day to develop a thesis regarding the expected trading range and volatility for the day as well as a directional bias. And the second step in my process is execution. I look at real-time order flow in Bookmap and real-time market maker hedging flow in Spotgamma Hero to confirm my thesis and for setups. And when I talk about setups today, I will be focusing on an underlying asset. Setups in that asset can be taken with futures contracts, shares of stock, or options, depending on the asset as well as the way you like to trade. Questions and comments are welcome, and I will be watching both the Options-Doug chat channel as well as the chat and YouTube for your questions and comments. Please feel free to post. I'll do my best to answer your questions. Here's my agenda for today, Wednesday, February 25th. First of all, I want to go over news items, economic data, events, and earnings for today as well as the rest of the week. Then I'll go through my positional analysis. Then I'll review some setups from earlier today. Then I'll take a look at the live market. And when I get to the live market, if anyone has any stocks they want me to take a look at, please let me know and I'll be glad to do that. Hey, Stephen, welcome. Glad you're here. All right, let's get started. News items. So let's talk about earnings first. So that's I think the most important thing coming up. All right, so this afternoon, first of all, NVIDIA reports earnings. Let's zoom this in. So I'm looking at the Spotgamma dashboard home screen. This is the earnings chart for this week. And there are some key earnings reports coming up. First of all, NVIDIA reports earnings after the close. The expected move is about 5.25%. Then there are several software stocks that report earnings after the close. And these stocks, as everyone probably knows, they have been beaten up. Concerns about AI. So these earnings reports could be important. Also, the implied volatility is quite elevated on these stocks. First of all, CRM reports earnings after the close today. The expected move plus or minus about 8%. Next, Snowflake reports earnings again. Expected move plus or minus 10.5%. Trade Desk plus or minus 12.25%. So those are just some of the stocks. Teladoc plus or minus 10.5%. And then we'll take a look at when I get to stocks today, we'll take a look at some stocks that have reported earnings, or one in particular, Workday, a software stock that rallied, that dropped, gapped down and then rallied. So we'll take a look at in that when I get to stocks. All right, so there is some economic data coming up on Friday. The PPI PPI data comes out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday. And that was really the only key data release this week. All right, let's move on to positional analysis. I'm going to start with the S&P 500. This is the ES Futures and Bookmap. Let's take a quick look at a couple of key levels on this chart, and then we will step back, take a look at a higher time frame. So first of all, key level of support this morning before the cash open overnight. The SPX 6890 volatility trigger noted as support in the Spotgamma AM Founders Note. There were a couple of tests of this level, held a support, then the 6900 level. This has been a key level. Held a support. And then the rally that began really somewhere between, let's see where that is. Rally that began with a second test of the volatility trigger right around 2:30 has really continued. All right, after the cash open, key levels. There's the SPY 690 absolute gamma strike volatility trigger. Good launching point for a long, right at the cash open, maybe a couple of minutes before the cash open. Bullish opening drive up to the ES upper daily expected move, then a sharp pullback, and now SPX, ES trading up near highs of the day. All right, so let's step back. Let's take a look at a higher time frame. I'm going to go to the underlying index, SPX. This is a 1-year, 1-day chart in Thinkorswim. So the current rally began last year in April, of course, and then this year has become consolidation, really between right around 6,800 and 7,000. So rally beginning last April up to consolidation beginning in January. All right, let's zoom in on that. Let's take a look at a 30-day, 1-hour chart so we can get a closer look at the current price action. Key for today is SPX is broken out above the zone of resistance, which is right around 6,900. And SPX trading up above the upper daily expected move. All right, so let's take a look at those expected moves. First of all, the dashed purple lines are showing the lower and upper weekly expected move. This is based on the options market. Based on the closing price for SPX from last Friday, those levels remain in place for the entire week. Then the dashed blue lines are showing the lower and upper daily expected move, also based on the options market. That's based on the closing price for SPX from yesterday. So those levels change every day, and I do post the expected moves for ES, NQ, and SPX every day the day before in the Options Jug chat channel and Discord. So SPX and ES both trading above their upper daily expected moves. So again, in summary, SPX gapped up above the 6,900 level and has rallied up above its upper daily expected move. All right, let's take a look at the spot gamma levels on this chart. These are shown with the dark red lines. They're based on gamma-weighted open interest. They're provided to Spotgamma subscribers on a variety of trading platforms. Again, this is Thinkorswim, a 30-day, 1-hour chart. I'm going to point out the key daily levels. First of all, the put wall remains at 6,800. That's a strike with large net negative gamma that can be expected to act as support. The next level up is the volatility trigger at 68.90. I pointed that level out before, acting as support before the cash open. That is Spotgamma's proprietary volatility and gamma flip level. Below that level, market makers' position on the gamma curve is negative. In a negative gamma environment, market makers have to trade with price to hedge their delta exposure. That tends to enhance or increase volatility. Above that level, market makers' position on the gamma curve is positive. In a positive gamma environment, market makers have to trade against price to hedge their delta exposure. That tends to subdue or decrease volatility. Note that is based on Spotgamma's older total open interest model. And we'll take a look at gamma in just a couple of minutes based on their newer synthetic open interest model. That will give us a more current picture of gamma as is occurring right now. All right, so the next level up is the absolute gamma strike at 7,000. That's a strike where largest absolute positive and negative gamma that can be expected to act. That's where most of the gamma-weighted open interest is concentrated. And then finally, the call wall remains at 7,100. That's a strike where large net positive gamma that can be expected to act as resistance. So note there were no changes in these key daily levels from yesterday. So no changes. All right, let's wrap up our view of SPX with a 1-minute chart. So you can see the rally that began early yesterday morning. We'll see that on the SPY chart as well. Ended up in consolidation right around the volatility trigger yesterday. And then SPX gapped up today. Found resistance at the upper daily expected move a couple times. And is now grinding higher in positive gamma. All right, that's SPX, 1-minute chart. And let's take a look at SPX now, at SPY, then we'll get back to Bookmap. So this is Thinkorswim. So Charles Schwab, SPY trades 24/5, so you can see the price action overnight. So dark shaded portion showing regular trading hours. You can see the low yesterday was 680 to the tick. There was a large gamma 4 level yesterday and today. Then the rally continues today. So let's zoom in on that. Earlier today, there was some resistance at the 692 round number level. Now that level appears to be acting as support. And note, SPY is trading above its volatility trigger at 690. just like SPX. All right, shifts on levels for SPY. Both the volatility trigger and absolute gamma strike shifted higher to the 690 level. So that's a bullish brace for SPY today. All right, that's SPY. Back to Bookmap now. So again, I pointed out the key levels, and then we took a look at those levels on the SPX and SPY charts. So just to wrap up, $68.90 volatility support before the cash open. Support at 6,900. 690 SPY absolute gamma strike volatility trigger. And let's see, the 692 resistance. That's just below the ES upper daily expected move. Now the next level up above is the 69.50 level. All right, note there is a difference in price between ES and SPX. And today it is between 12 and 13. So I'm actually using 12 and a half. So I'm showing SPX 6,900 at ES 6912.5. So that ES to SPX offset is 12 and a half points now. And I do post the index relationships that I use every day in the Options-Jug chat channel and Discord. All right, that's the S&P 500. Let's take a look at Nasdaq. Very strong bullish opening drive. All right, let's take a look at the underlying index charts before we take a closer look at this chart. We'll go to QQQ first. So just like SPY, QQQ made a low very early yesterday in the regular trading hours, and the rally has continued and then more sharply after the open today. And note the support yesterday was the 600 level, which is the absolute gamma strike and put wall. And it was the same yesterday. So key level, 600 support. And now QQQ trading up above 615, closer to 616. So that would have been a nice swing trade. Let's zoom in. I'll also note the support. Yesterday afternoon and overnight at the 607 volatility trigger. All right, let's zoom in. Let's just take a look at today. All right, so the key spot gamma levels are down below. 610 large gamma 2 level and 611 zero gamma level. Good launching point for long and that very strong bullish opening drive. And let's also take a look at NDX, the other underlying index component. So note for NDX, all the spot gamma levels are down below. And there's only one spot gamma level up above, that's well up above, is the 26,000 level. All right, so for NDX, no spot gamma levels in play. All right, so it's mainly, and that was after the cash open. So before the cash open, the 25,000, there's kind of a cluster of levels here, but this 25,075, that's a call wall, absolute gamma strike. Then there's a combo level just above that. And then the QQQ 610 large gamma 2 level. Around those levels acting as support. And then after the cash open, there's that 611.0 gamma level. And note, NQ is trading well above its upper daily expected move. All right, that's Nasdaq. All right, shifts and levels, just minor. For QQQ, the volatility trigger shifted up a couple of points. Hello, Oguz. Welcome. Glad you're here. And again, we'll take a look at setups in just a minute. All right, so let's wrap up our positional analysis by taking a look at Gamma. So we're going to the Trace Gamma heat map. So what this is showing is market maker's Gamma position for SPX. Red shading shows negative Gamma. Blue shading shows positive Gamma. So right now, SPX is trading in a zone of negative Gamma. Remember, in negative Gamma, we're looking for higher volatility, wider range of price action, market makers trading with price. And then in positive Gamma, blue shading, we're looking for lower price action, lower volatility as market makers trade against price. So let's zoom in on this just a little bit. All right, so again, we can see this positive Gamma up above, and that's starting right around 69.60, 69.50. And then currently SPX in this bright red zone of negative Gamma, and you can see the GEX bars there. So that's market maker's position, negative Gamma, looking for higher volatility in this zone. All right, let's take a look at some setups now. I'm going to start with the S&P 500. This is the All right, I'm going to start with the S&P 500. This is the S&P 500 index signal, hero signal for the S&P 500 index components. So this is available to Spotgamma subscribers. Again, it is the Spotgamma hero signal, HIRO, hedging impact real-time options. The white line shows price for SPX, and the purple line shows the hero signal. A rising hero signal indicates traders are taking positive delta options positions. They're buying calls and they're selling puts. And a falling hero signal indicates they are taking negative delta positions. They are buying puts and selling calls. In each case, market makers take the opposite side of the trades, and they have to buy or sell ES futures to hedge their delta exposure. They want to remain delta neutral. All right, so as usual, this hero signal is pretty choppy, and it shows the turning points more clearly than the S&P 500 equity signal, which tends to show the overall trend. And this is really what is showing the overall trend. So this is showing options trades and market maker hedging activity for all 500 stocks in the S&P 500 index. So what this is showing, I'm going to shift to puts and calls. I'm going to jump back. All right, so this is showing that traders are buying S&P 500 equity calls. That's shown by the rising orange line. When traders buy calls, market makers sell the calls, and they have to buy stock to hedge their delta exposure. Let's check one other thing. Let's check next expiry. So next expiry calls are shown by this green line down here. So that's options that expire for some stocks, expire today, and other stocks, and for the Mag 7, for example, that's options that expire today. Other stocks, it's options that expire on Friday. But the notable thing here is the orange line is well above the green line, indicating this call buying is longer term than next expiry. So let's turn that off. So this is bullish, longer term bullish when traders are buying longer term calls. All right, back to the S&P 500. All right, so I'm going to talk about this bullish opening drive, then the first pullback. So you can see traders buying calls, selling puts from the open. And then starting right around 951, 952, they stopped and they started selling calls and buying puts. And the S&P 500 reversed lower. And we saw on the equity signal, it just continued to move higher, maybe slowed down just a little bit. So let's see. All right, so a little bit of a slowdown in the S&P 500 equity signal. Strong bullish opening drive. Index responds as traders start buying puts and selling calls in the S&P 500 index components. That's SPX, SPY, ES, and XSP. And the equity signal flattens out. So the call buyers took the foot off the gas. Then they started buying calls again. They continue to buy calls. All right, so let's take a look at Bookmap. Zoom in on this. All right, so there's the bullish opening drive. Price started to move higher above the SPY 690. Absolute gamma strike volatility triggered just a couple minutes before the cash opened. Then rallied sharply up to the upper daily expected move for ES. And then remember again at the index, traders started buying puts, selling calls. Price reversed lower. So this initial move was also driven by buy stop orders shown by the rising yellow line. Cumulative volume delta, the dark blue line, a little bit choppy. And then the light blue line showing large traders were buying that move with iceberg orders. All right, so that was the move higher. Pull back to the 69.20 level. This was noted as resistance in the Spotgamma AM Founders Note and actually acted as support. Then as the hero signal shifted higher, the S&P 500 shifted higher as well. All right, bullish opening drive, a little bit of reversal, and then the rally continues. All right, let me check for questions. Oguz has several questions. First, is it possible to check hero signal on NQ in today's opening? So for the Nasdaq, I don't look at NQ. I look at two signals. We'll get to that right now. I look at the Nasdaq index signal and the Mag 7 signal. And Oguz wants to see my volume dot settings in Bookmap. Sure, I can do that. All right, volume dots. I use volume delta. Size, I adjust quite a bit as I zoom in and out, so that changes all the time. Clustering, I use smart clustering and just a small amount of smart clustering. Then for transparency, I have that turned way down. I like a lot of contrast, so I want to see sharp, crisp volume dots. So I turn transparency down. All right, last question was, what is the blue line on trace? So let's go take a look at that. Meanwhile, we'll shift past back to Nasdaq. Oh, let's All right, so hold on a second. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So, yes, we're talking about setups, bullish opening drive, pullback, then rally that began again right around 11 a.m. All right, so let's talk about setups on Nasdaq now. So let's go back. We'll take a look at trace. So trace, if you're talking about this line right here, this is the hero signal. And in trace, you can choose whether you want to use the S&P 500 equities or the index signal. The equities is providing a little bit more clear signal today. All right, back to hero now. All right, so let's go to Nasdaq. We have puts and calls separated. Orange line shows calls, blue line shows puts. This is Nasdaq index signal. Again, this is what I'm using for Nasdaq, not the NQ signal, but for any form of Nasdaq, whether you trade NQ, QQQ, or QQQ. This is one of the two signals you want to take a look at. So this is showing that traders were selling puts at the open in QQQ and NDX. They took the foot off the gas, and there was just a little bit of consolidation. Not quite the pullback like the S&P 500. And then for Nasdaq, this is the other signal that we can take a look at. This is the Nasdaq. This is the Mag 7 signal, showing options trades of market maker hedging activity for the stocks known as the Magnificent Seven: Apple, Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Tesla. And this is showing traders are selling puts, buying calls from the open, took the foot off the gas, a little bit of consolidation. Then the call buyers came back in about 10:30, and they continue to buy calls. They're also selling puts, shown by the positive delta notional on both these signals. All right, so back to Nasdaq. Let's zoom in on this. Very strong bullish opening drive. Up from NQ about 25,150 up to 350. So 200 point move in about 30 minutes. You can see all the green volume dots in Bookmap. The volume dots in Bookmap show market buy minus sell. So these are the aggressive buyers and sellers. Green volume dots indicate more buyers than sellers. Magenta dots more sellers than buyers. So you can see this move higher dominated almost all by green volume dots, aggressive buyers. And then finally some sellers starting to come in as NQ moves up toward the 350 level. And at that point, cumulative volume delta, shown by the dark blue line, starts to slow down, as well as the yellow line showing stop orders. Note, unlike the S&P 500, large traders are fading that move with iceberg orders they use to hide their size. That's pretty typical behavior. All right, so to summarize for Nasdaq, aggressive buyers buying NQ, as well as traders buying calls and selling puts in both the index components and also especially in the Mag 7 stocks. Shown here, Mag 7. But it looks like Mag 7 driving price higher. Delta notional is much higher. And you're welcome, Oguz. Today, Oguz says, today I entered 25,156, closed 25,310. Outstanding trade, great, way to go. So that's why I asked about the hero signal, trying to figure out, do I need for scalping? Certainly it would help. to look at this. This gives certainly gives a confirmation of the move higher. All right, so that is the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq. Bullish opening drives, consolidation, and now moving higher. Finally, the S&P 500 equity signal call buyers. All right, any more questions about the indexes? All right, let's take a look at some stocks. So I have a couple of Mag 7 stocks and then some other stocks that are in play for today. So the first stock I want to take a look at is Microsoft. Classic pattern, bullish opening drive. Flow alerts come in just after the cash open, signal significant options activity. That second flow alert, I interpret that as a confirmation of the move higher, that traders are aggressively buying calls, shown by the rising orange line. Microsoft breaks up above the 395 call wall and then finds resistance at the 400 key gamma strike. And that is when Microsoft reached the 400 key gamma strike. That's when the call buyers took their foot off the gas, started selling a few calls. And so that's really a bullish opening drive driven by call buyers and then call exhaustion. A little bit of a call peak there. So let's go take a look at Bookmap. Go to Microsoft. All right, Microsoft making its way back up to that 400 level, 400 key gamma strike. Notice all the green volume dots there. That's a lot of aggressive buyers taking advantage of the low price in Microsoft. Rising cumulative volume delta. Call buyers, call buyers and aggressive buyers buying shares, driving price higher. Up to the 400 level, consolidation, then backed up to the 400 level. And note the heat map in Bookmap shows the history of limit orders in the order book. This is pretty typical. These orders come in. Most of them come in at the cash open, limit sell orders, and they act as magnets for price. So limit sell orders, they were consumed at 395 call wall and 400 key gamma strike, and then some intermediate levels as well. All right, so there's Microsoft. Traders taking advantage of the cheap price. All right, next stock, NVIDIA. Again, NVIDIA reports earnings after the close today. Bullish day for NVIDIA. Again, a lot of aggressive buyers, a lot of green volume dots. Let's see what options traders are doing in NVIDIA. So ahead of earnings, they're buying calls. Let's check next day. All right, so these are calls that are expiring. And remember, NVIDIA now has options that expire on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So they are buying some calls shown by the green line that expire today. And then options that expire further out in time. It could be Friday next month. So that is bullish. Traders buying longer term calls. So another bullish opening drive. Traders buy calls, market makers sell the calls. They have to buy stock. They have their delta exposure. Full alert comes in just after the cash open. Get your attention. Signals significant options activity. And in this case, confirms the move higher. All right, Oguz has more questions. And Oguz says, I see you have AGS levels, absolute gamma strike levels, and other important ones in your bookmap screen. Are they coming in with an add-on, or are you marking? Also, do you use delta on COB and CVP? All right, so let's go back. Go back to Bookmap. Actually, I'll get to that question in just a couple of minutes. Let's wrap up with these stocks. Then I'll get back to the index and we can, I'll answer your questions. All right, so that's NVIDIA. Traders positioning in a bullish manner before the earnings report today. Back to Bookmap. They're also buying shares. Show them all the green volume dots. All right, so traders taking a bullish position before the earnings report today. All right, so another stock on the move today was Palantir, one of the software stocks that has been beaten down for weeks and weeks, months and months. So let's see what options traders are doing. Obviously, a lot of green volume dots, a lot of aggressive buyers buying shares. So let's take a look at Palantir. Call buyers. Nice dip at the open down to the 130 hedge wall key gamma strike. Great entry point for long as traders started buying calls. Flow alert signals significant options activity, confirms that move higher. And traders aggressively buy calls for about 90 minutes. And then they take the foot off the gas, maybe 75 minutes, take the foot off the gas, and Palantir consolidates. So back to Bookmap. Long entry at 130 as the aggressive buyers come in. Sellers are exhausted, shown by that small magenta volume dot. Aggressive buyers come in. Price reverses higher above the 130 hedge wall key gamma strike. And aggressive buyers take Palantir up to and above the high liquidity at 135, the limit sell orders acting as a magnet for price as traders aggressively buy calls. And remember, they started to take their foot off the gas right here, right around 1045. Nice pullback there for an entry for a long. Another pullback to 133 level. All right, that's Palantir. Next stock, Western Digital. Strong today. Note I didn't have time to add the price lines levels for this stock today. So let's see what options traders are doing on Western Digital. This is one of the storage stocks that has been very strong recently. So they're buying beaten down software stocks as well as the stronger stocks like Western Digital as well. Zoom in on this just a bit. Bullish opening drive. Call buyers take the foot off the gas. Price consolidates. Call buyers come back in. Price moves a little higher. They take the foot off the gas again and price consolidates. All right, key target up above was the 300 level, but the call buyers just took their foot off the gas too soon for Western Digital to get there. So the main trade was that very sharp, fast, bullish opening drive as traders were aggressively buying calls from about 9:30 to 9:45. All right, back to Bookmap. So when you zoom in on this, you can see it makes it a little bit easier to see the pullbacks. You can, for long entries here, plenty of liquidity targets up above. Liquidity at 290, 294, 295, 300. There's that 300 level up above. But the call buyers just took the foot off the gas too soon. And you can see the shift in volume dots. Magenta dots, green, starting to come in. And Random Vibes, welcome, glad you're here. Ask, what market is this? All right, so I've gone over ES, NQ. Now I'm taking a look at some stocks that are in play for today. In just a couple minutes, I'll get back to ES and NQ. All right, so that's Western Digital. Next stock, Workday, reported earnings. Disappointing earnings. Workday gapped down and then rallied from the open. Let's see what options traders are doing in Workday. All right, so traders are buying calls, shown by the rising orange line. And they were also, and this is a very large block order, institutional order. I call that an institutional kickoff. Large block order, some large institution selling puts in Workday. And helping to drive price higher. And then note other put sellers came in as well. So traders taking advantage of the high volatility in a software stock, selling volatility, selling puts, and buying calls. And Workday rallies. Key level up above us, the 135. Call wall, key gamma strike. So that's just up above 135. High liquidity. Looks like the limit sell orders came in right around 1045. So that's Workday. Last stock I want to take a look at is a crypto stock, Coinbase. A lot of crypto stocks moving higher today. Could be that Bitcoin is moving higher. It was earlier today, as well as the earnings report from Circle. So let's zoom in on this just a bit. So one thing that I wanted to point out is the very nice regular deep pullbacks that you could use to enter long. And I use these. This is the market pulse price change indicator in Bookmap I have shown here in the subchart. And in an uptrend, I'm looking at these red extremes in the market pulse price change indicator to confirm these deeper pullbacks entries for long. Market pulse price change is doing a great job of marking these deeper pullbacks for long. And again, there are plenty of liquidity targets, high liquidity, limit sell orders up above, acting as magnets for price. So it looks like right now Coinbase has reached 185. So let's go take a look at Hero. Go to Coinbase. Call buyers and some put sellers driving price higher. Up to and above the 177.50 call wall, acted as resistance, then support, and traders continue to buy calls. All right, does anyone have any stocks they want me to take a look at? All right, let's go back to the index. All right, S&P 500 continues to move higher. Looks like right around 130 or so. Traders started selling puts and buying calls. S&P 500 moving higher. A few flow alerts came in. All right, that's the S&P 500 index signal. Let's check the equity signal. Traders continue to buy calls. Very mechanical move higher. Should be the same in Mag 7. Note 1.42 billion. So a good portion of that, actually just a little over half, more than half, is the Mag 7 stocks, but there are also traders buying calls in the 493 as well. All right, so let's go take a look at, back to the index, S&P 500. All right, Goose, if you were asking about these levels right here, Spotgamma levels, there are a couple ways to show these. So you can use the Spotgamma cloud notes, you can use your own notes, or I use an add-on called Price Lines. It's right here. And I have a spreadsheet that I use, shown right here, that I mark all these levels. And I do that so I can show SPX, SPY, and ES levels all on this chart. So whether I'm trading ES futures, SPY shares, SPY options, SPX options, I can look at this one chart. I have all this information to trade any one of those instruments. And let's see, Goose asked, do I use Delta on COB? No. But I do use Delta on CVP, but not SVP. Let's check that. Configure column. All right, so CVP, I'm showing Delta. Current order book, COB, there is no Delta option. SVP, I do not show Delta. So those are my settings. Let's check Nasdaq. Rally continues as traders continue to buy Mag 7 stock calls. Now Nasdaq up above highs of the day, which was just under 616. NES trading well above the highs of the day, which was the ES upper daily expected move that acted as resistance, then support. And again, remember, we saw the same behavior for the SPX upper daily expected move, resistance, then support. Let's go check Trace. SPX still in negative gamma, bright red shading. Let's check Charm. Buying support, selling pressure due to time decay. So right now the blue shading is showing buying support due to time decay. And based on the current price action, I don't see any clear pending targets, which we would not necessarily expect in negative gamma. All right, back to gamma. All right, August, did I answer your questions? If not, please let me know. All right, back to Hero. Traders continue to buy calls. In equities, now it looks like the put sellers have taken the foot off the gas in the index signal. Let's go back to Bookmap. All right, so ES bumping up against the SPY 693 level. There are some sellers up above. ES sellers, you can see that in the heat map and Bookmap. And there were not enough buyers to move up through those limit sell orders at 69.60. Let's darken up the heat map just a little bit. Let's check Nasdaq. All right, Nasdaq has broken above the QQQ 616 level. Continues to grind higher. Looks a little bit more bullish than ES right now. So it looks like the next level up above is the NQ 25,400 level. Let's go back and check Hero. Check Nasdaq index signal. All right, to reach that level, it looks like the call buyers and put sellers would have to step on the gas. Mag 7 call buyers have slowed down just a little bit. Let's do a last check on NVIDIA. All right, traders. A lot of buyers still. Looks like some sellers are coming in. Let's check Hero. Looks like traders have been buying a few puts. The blue line has shifted down to negative delta notional. But the call buyers far outnumbering the put buyers, but traders are buying puts. So let's check. Let's do a quick check of Snowflake, the other stock, one of the other stocks that we looked at that reports earnings. So on Snowflake, there was a bullish opening drive. With traders buying calls, they quickly took the foot off the gas. Now look, a large block order. Some large institution selling calls. Let's just check real quick. See if that was options that expired Friday. All right, so note the green line right on top of the orange line. So that was options that expire Friday for Snowflake. So some large institution selling a large block of Snowflake calls that expire on Friday. Let's check. Let's see, the other stock was CRM. Let's check CRM. See how traders are positioning. All right, pretty light. Traders have been selling puts and selling calls. So perhaps setting up strangles to take advantage of the high volatility that should collapse after earnings. And Goose, thank you very much for your kind words. And I'm glad to answer your questions. And also, please join me in Discord. And there you can ask questions 24/7, and I'll answer as soon as I can. All right, everyone. Key earnings reports this afternoon, both from NVIDIA, several software stocks. So keep your eyes open for that. All right, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Thanks for your questions and comments. And I will see you on Friday. Remember, I am streaming now on Friday as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing you on Friday. Thanks again. Bye.